So we know we have the technology to look at that area and then start to heat map it and start to really target what could be interesting, where we should be looking.
All right, everybody, welcome to the next big rush. Today, I am here with Brent Tolmie. Now, he is the project brains behind Genesis AI Corp, a company that we have mentioned here before as a very interesting intercept between what's happening in the mining world and in AI and like bleeding edge tech. So don't miss this one because you're going to want to understand where the opportunity lies within AI. And speaking of which, Brent, welcome. Let's kick this off by asking it straight. What's the hype with AI, and where do you think the real opportunity lies? Because I hear a lot of it, and it seems like you've already started to see, a decoupling of people who are like, okay, this is the future, absolutely, legitimate industry that's very, very early stage, and you already have the haters calling out for bubbles. So welcome, and let us know your take on this.
Great to be here today, Fabi. Thanks. And yeah, AI, what a topic. A lot of what's going on today in the world is trying to take computer horsepower and apply it to problems. And just like any industry, when there's a gold rush, there's picks and shovel plays. There's people actually exploring. There's people lending into the industry and finance, and so you start to get this whole cultural malaise around something that could be very practical and helpful. And there's just a lot of hype. And when I look at all the various projects, because you see new ones every day, you start to stratify in your mind, like, is this going somewhere? Is this not going to go somewhere? Are they actually going to compete with the likes of Microsoft and OpenAI? They're going to be able to compete with Google, who's been using data science in Google search results forever. Facebook, Meta, same thing. The reason why they can target you with ads, that was all AI. So there's a lot of hype in the industry when somebody's proposing to do AI for ads. It's already actually been done, and done for probably the better part of a decade. So tons of hype out there. And I think when investors are looking where to place their capital, they have to look at people who are using AI for practical application. And that's what we've been focusing on with Gen AI.
Awesome. And so what do you actually do, and how do you differ from the typical mining investing company?
Sure. I think a great example that people will probably have heard of, Cobalt Minerals. That's a Bezos Gates-backed mining startup, and they found this massive deposit of copper in Zambia. So you can think that that's where a mining company essentially took AI and made a Google map of the planet and started to heat map where they thought there was areas of interest, perhaps that have been overlooked. And if we took all the geological knowledge and locked them in a room and said, hey, figure out every possible scenario of where you could potentially find something, or maybe you overlooked or missed something because human bias, you had a bad day, you missed a page when you were thumbing through results, things of that nature. AI doesn't do that. When we hard code things, it examines everything in sort of a binary perspective. So you don't have as many of those mistakes, and we can start to take all of that knowledge that would take literally decades to comb through, and we could start to automate that. And within weeks, we start to have solutions. And so that's really what we focused Genesis AI's mining module, which is now called Geoh. And the genesis of the name was that we were interested, obviously, in geology tied to rare earth metals, precious minerals, things of that nature. And then wanting to harmonize all that data. So you put them together and you get geoharmony. So that's where we came from. We realized we wanted to apply our thought of AI, machine learning, which is a branch of AI, to the process. And so we needed to pick a project to start with so that we could build all the tools necessary to then look at other projects like copper in Zambia. And so what we chose, probably because we have some intersect with Devron Hawa, our CEO, being the CEO of other uranium exploration companies, he said, "Hey, why don't we do uranium? Because I know a thing or two about that, obviously, and can point you guys in the right direction." And so we took that and we started with a project called the Athabasca Basin. So 100,000 square kilometers in Saskatchewan, butting up into Alberta. And we've taken all the publicly available data and synthesized that into a Googleable, searchable database, which becomes a very marketable tool for exploration companies, in that we can do the same thing with their area, with their data. So it's just taking the cost, the workflow, and perhaps the missed opportunities that other geologists may have overlooked. Maybe it's old data that's been sitting literally in a closet. Maybe it's institutional knowledge that was lost over time, and being able to search that. And so that's what we've built initially, is a data search and download tool focused on the Athabasca Basin. And that's the thing that we pushed out yesterday as a public release.
That's awesome. I was reading the news and the only thing that was missing in my head is, what does this thing look like? Are you able to show us like just a sneak peek of maybe what the software looks like? Because the viewers of this channel are very familiar with the Athabasca Basin as a region and as an opportunity for investing in uranium. But I have not seen anybody, just aggregate all the data within that region in order to make it available. Now, my understanding is that this is going or is being available to companies who are going to hire you as a service provider. Is that correct?
That is correct. So our business model is SaaS, which stands for software as a service. So this is all cloud hosted. So we don't have racks of servers of our own at this point. It's an AWS hosted service, so it's available to many companies. And that becomes a competitive advantage, because once you build a product, you're able to then rinse and repeat, sell it to other people. And in the software business, we really think about 90% out of the box, off the shelf, pretty standard. And then there's that 10% of customization where people may want a different interface. They may want, different, like when we go to our Zoom function, we decide if we want to have a light screen or a dark screen, things like that, you can customize fairly easily. But the mainstay workings of it are the same. And that's why SaaS has such a good revenue model, where margins can be up over 60%, because we're actually just building off the same tool. Of course, once you release a tool, you're in the cog of actually continually updating it, making it better. And that's one of the advantages of AI, is that the more data we add to it, the better it actually gets, because AI ML actually performs better on very large data sets as opposed to very small data sets. It's better on laws of averages, and that's just part of how coding works. Finding the needle in the haystack, it just prefers more piles of hay.
Cool. Very neat. So let's take a look at it.
Okay, so I'm just gonna type in my password here. So what this looks like today is a dashboard. So I just had a login screen. This is our dashboard. So we're going to filter by territories. We have our category. So we can choose what we're looking for between geophysics, geochemistry, geology. We have a start date. So if you're looking for specific information, I think we've gone back so far to 2002. We've talked to our consulting geologist, James, and we're going to go back further so that we can cover things off like the Rough Rider deposit. And then you can have an end year. So if you're looking for a particular thing, you can obviously target that. And then this is all publicly available data that we've synthesized. And then basically, if you're searching for a different type of data. So it's a dashboard, but part of having AI is being able to put everything into a place so that you can start to actually search it and use tools. And then if you're looking for a specific file number, you can tag it. But the neat part is we've actually added map functionality.
Cool.
So there's our Athabasca. And if I were interested in a certain area, I would click on it, and that would give me basically the data I'm looking for from that specific area. So, we've tagged different geographies, obviously. So there's a pile of data, and I won't get too far into the weeds because I think it'll be specific to very experienced users. But you can see how it will all come together. So that's an example of what we're building. And I think the power of it is that we've stratified all this information in something that's very searchable. And I think you can add all the different file types. You can stack all those on. So the interesting piece is that a lot of this data was in PDF, and we actually built an AI extract tool to pull all the information off of the PDF and then
Nice.
actually classify it into a geography.
Very cool.
Yeah, I mean, oftentimes these things don't look like much, but what this represents is huge workflow and productivity advancements. Then we can search by metadata. So all this is available. And the other piece is that the geophysicist, the geochemist, the geologist can actually not only search, but also download this into their systems. So if they're looking for a particular thing, a particular find that they wanted to collate, then perhaps they can pull this information off into their own system and then use other tools. And so there's that API functionality, which we're pretty passionate about adding. So yeah, this is where it starts. The stratification of information and how we move things forward.
Awesome. I think you guys are going to be very busy moving forward, especially this year, because from what I've been talking to companies about and getting, to know what their plans are for 2024, there are a lot of companies up in the basin who will be drilling, significant exploration programs. And you know this yourself from working with Dev. And so I think that more and more you're going to have, all the data and information that's going to be super valuable, especially for newcomers coming into the basin and, trying to ascertain what are the projects to JV on and, what should we be looking for, whether it's geophysics or actual, geological results. That's really exciting. So I have seen that you guys have come out with, lots of different pieces of news ever since we first chatted. And you guys are beefing up your team. You always have something on the go. So I guess my question to you, Brent, is, what's next? Because in the mining world, we look at a project, which is every project starts as moose pasture, as much as we don't like to say it.
Sure.
At the very beginning, that's all they are. And we try to, maybe, have some boots on the ground and some old school prospecting, or we do some geophysics, geochemistry, etc. And there are layers of information that we use in order to then drill and then to maybe come out with a result that's decent and then build a resource from that. And eventually, maybe if we're lucky, we build a mine out of that, or somebody else will hopefully bid the project up and build a mine out of that. With your stuff, it's very different, right? Because what you're doing is you're trying to use technology that's available today, and you're trying to, I guess, make it serve a real purpose in the real world where companies will be willing to pay for that. So how do you manage those expectations with investors, and how do you see the company adding value going forward?
All great questions, and I think it is true. We say in the SaaS business, we're responsible for a P&L, and that profit and loss statement looks very different than a junior mining exploration company, where they take on debt and issue shares and private or public finance. And then one day, hopefully, all of their P comes in one lump sum, where that mine or that property either is acquired by a major or they actually go into production. And that's where the P comes, where they actually make a product or sell, for a premium on shares. This is different in that we have a need to create revenue, and that we are moving towards revenue. And that's part of the what's next, is actually taking this product, putting into a deck that will be available on the website, and then hitting the road essentially with SaaS marketing team. So redefining that, being able to explain it, and then just starting dying for dollars, essentially talking to customers, showing demos, and showing what's possible. And not just in the Athabasca. That was an example. So we know we have the technology to look at that area and then start to heat map it and start to really target what could be interesting, where we should be looking, and whether we add some geophysics or we fly for some information to tighten up that model. That's something that's being done by one of our competitors. They're spending, they're issuing licenses in the south of Arizona for $1 million+ US to access a similar product. So it gives you an idea of
Wow.
what's available. Yeah, they're big numbers. So we're competing in a very busy basket. And as you know, mining exploration is very expensive. It typically, as you said, starts with a moose pasture. Moving drill rigs in the north is not inexpensive, and it takes a lot of money. So if we can improve or move the needle on the efficiency of that capital, 1, 2, 3% on the billions that are spent annually in Canada, then that's a big number, and it presents a really good opportunity to license products to companies, and to keep on doing that. What's next is we built a storefront essentially. So, you think about a Walmart or a Costco or a grocery store has to have a place for the trucks to come in, the produce to get unloaded. It's got that back end. It's got a front end with all the shelves stocked. It's got carts. It's got employees. It's got people who clean at night. It's got lights, and it has checkouts, and then it has a parking lot. So think of GeoHarmony as that infrastructure. So now we can just take that infrastructure and apply it to lithium in Ontario or Quebec. We can take it and start to look for all the exploration that was done in the mid and southwest, based on the Manhattan Project. We can start going and looking for the proverbial needle in the haystack based on our connections in the mining industry, as well as understanding what may be there. And so to start to aggregate all that information and to really comb for data that we can apply our thinking. And then, of course, the real neat thing about AI/ML is that you can take these very famous, very well relied on white papers as to how to find gold, how to find copper, what's the best way to look for uranium. And we can actually code that. So we can develop an ability to take that white paper and actually make it into a computer program through AI that actually looks through those lenses. So we put those lenses on and we can just search an amazing amount of data and start to find and pinpoint resources that maybe perhaps have been overlooked. And that's really what we're targeting. And so we're starting to talk to a group in the US that would like for us to do that, to look for the needle in the haystack. We have some particular search targets that we're working on, as well as we've been pitching a Eastern Canada company about doing a sort of a seek and destroy project to look for where is the best place to find lithium in Northern Ontario and Quebec. So it's starting to get to the point where we're out of the ideation phase, that tip of the iceberg that people see. Okay, I see a little chunk of ice floating, but what they don't realize is that there's been a dozen people working tirelessly for the last 4 months to put this product together. Now that it's out there, we can start to apply it to other jurisdictions, as well as improve our targeting abilities in the Athabasca.
That is very, very interesting. As you're saying this, I'm kind of, like the cogs are turning, and I'm kind of extrapolating that into the future of when you have all these different minerals throughout the whole world and the information behind that. Obviously, it takes time to get there. And if you have, the right markers and indicators as to, where is more likely to be, prospective ground for these discoveries. I know this is a kind of out of left field question, but could it be that in the future, your services are so valuable and so helpful in finding great targets that it might be that instead of charging a fixed fee or whatever fee structure you have, you're charging for something like a royalty on the company, the project, etc. I mean, if this is as powerful as my brain is making it out to be in the future, when the information is all uploaded and you can apply, let's call it quote unquote algorithms, like geological algorithms to your data, then this is probably an asset that could help launch multiple companies that would actually find the minerals they're looking for, and not just promote it, right? I mean the value here is absolutely massive.
That's part of our hypothesis. And when we came together as a team under Dev's leadership, there really was that discussion about how do we help find targets, help companies be more efficient with their information, get the information out of the closet from in piles and bankers boxes and get it into a database that's searchable, downloadable, stratified by geochem, geophysics, etc. One step further, and that's exactly what we're negotiating with today. That project in Eastern Canada is, would we do that on a revenue basis, just pay us to do that work, or would we perhaps do it for a chunk of the proceeds or the royalties or the company? And I think that gets to be a very interesting model where if if you have the data to basically influence where people should be looking. And keep in mind that this is a tool for geologists first and foremost. We're putting together a dashboard that basically is like a mixing board for different factors, because oftentimes there's so much expertise, there's institutional knowledge, there's, as I said to one geologist we've been talking to, they've been kicking rocks over for 40 years and they forgot more than we'll ever know. So coupled with their expertise, we can really get down to brass tacks. That said, we're entrepreneurial and we're flexible. And so we are looking for the needles in the haystack. And as we start to gain traction, momentum, and start to obviously sell some product, we'll actually want to start targeting projects of our own, and then perhaps go out and see what we can find, and then what kind of commercial deals we can cut. And of course, Dev is the master at that.
That is super interesting. I'm started to get excited just thinking about, where this could go. Awesome. Brent, thank you so much. Just let us know, what can people expect from the company moving forward? I know that you're moving quite quickly, but what's next in 2024 for Genesis?
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Getting to product one was a long stretch. So of course, in the mining world, of course, no news is akin to death. So you need to spin up some, but don't send a news release out that isn't powerful either. So it's that fine balance. I think for Genesis, we've lived through that sort of very quiet development time where we built a team, we iterated on a concept, we built this product. Then of course you have to QA, QC it, test it, and then get it out to the marketplace. Now we have to go sell it. So you hear a lot about us pushing this product and then also working on that targeting capacity, scraping all of this information to start to find targets. So you're going to hear about co-development relationships, about contracts. And then if I switch gears a little bit on the forestry side of things, because I think mining is actually very difficult, and we're super happy with how things are coming along with GeoHarmony, but we respect the people who are finding things that you can't see. They're looking at radiology, they're looking at all these different factors to find things, whereas on the forestry side of things, I'm just staring out my window because there's trees. We can touch, taste, feel, and see them very easily. So that's a different part of data science where we're applying really looking for the unknown based on all of these factors in science versus the cataloging of biological assets. And so you'll start to see in early March, we'll start to do releases on our forestry products as well. and expect to see some co-development relationships there where we're starting to work for clients and getting out of the beta testing phase and actually into revenue. So lots on the go. Obviously, wildfire season's coming up. That's top of mind too. So we're working on a couple of relationships there. Can't say too much about those right now, but looking forward to hopefully being able to prevent some of these wildfire events just by good data science and understanding where resources should be allocated. So tons on the go, lots of good news coming, and just really excited to talk about GeoHarmony today. And as always, appreciate being able to talk about what we're doing.
No problem. Brent, thank you so much. I'll be watching you very closely because this is way too cool to be ignored for sure. And it's very welcoming to see any sort of technology come into the mining industry. I know that the work that you guys uh, are going to do within the forestry industry is probably more important from a social aspect and in a real human aspect right now, and it's your expertise. But at the end of the day, we mining investors have been clamoring for good technology that actually works and actually adds value to companies. So that is very refreshing as well. I wish you the very best, Brent, and I'll see you very soon because you're going to have great news and I'm going to want to come in and chat with you again. Take care.
Thanks for having me.